Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten, and I guess welcome to summer. We bypassed spring, so today it's up in the 80s and summer's here. But we're still working with our 'Tis the Season, and again, as I've said before, it's the season for politics. And just a matter of a few weeks, there'll be filing day. That's right, June 1st is filing day. But today I'm so happy to have back as my guest, Chris Pappas. He's a member of the Governor's Executive Council, and he represents District number 4. I was going to say that, but it didn't sound right. And Chris has been with us again a couple of times, and he's such a great guest. And I'm telling you, they are very lucky down in that district because you are such a hard worker, and I don't know how you do it. You are. I still say you should run for governor, but you don't want to do that right now. But
no, that's not in the cards for me this year. But it's a pleasure to be on again, and I enjoyed my last couple of visits here. So thanks for inviting me back.
Now I know you represent a number of towns that are around Concord. Bow is one of them, I think, isn't it?
That's right.
Pembroke is another one.
Pembroke, Allenstown, Loudon, Chichester.
Yeah, they all border us. Yep. And so that's good because. But isn't that kind of crazy in a way how they do that? And then you get Colin, who's from Concord, yet he doesn't represent, he goes from that way, maybe over that. It's crazy.
Well, anytime you have politicians drawing maps, you'll get some, crazy configurations of districts.
Yeah.
And, I think ultimately, and this is probably a separate show that you could do here, you would want an independent commission drawing district lines and to try to take the politics out of it so that you can keep communities of interest together when it comes time for redistricting, which happens every 10 years.
Every 10 years,
we'll be doing it again in
2020.
After the 2020 elections.
Yeah, that crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell you, it doesn't. Yeah, because I know Pelham this year last year was complaining, and we in Concord here we have one ward that shares with Hopkinton. Mary Jane Walnut. Mm-hmm. She represents Hopkinton too. It's crazy. But anyway, we're starting to get ready for you might as well say our summer recess, but yet you have to meet all some of them, right? The Executive Council.
We do. The council meets year round.
Okay.
We have a pretty regular meeting schedule where we have a formal meeting every other Wednesday. And during the summer and fall months, we take our show on the road, and so we'll go to each one of our districts, and it's a great opportunity for people around the state to see what we do, to come to our meeting, meet the governor, meet the councilors, meet the commissioners, and get a feel for what the governor and council process is like. One of the reasons I think the council is so important, hundreds of years after it was created during the colonial era, is that we open up state government so people can see what's happening. In most other states, state contracts and appointments of key positions are done without the same set of checks and balances. In New Hampshire, we have a 5-member board, the Executive Council, that approves all these things to make sure that the governor and that state government is doing right by the people. So transparency is a real important facet of what the council does. And so those meetings that we take on the road is another opportunity for us to tell the people of New Hampshire what we're up to.
But you don't have, because I don't think we've ever had, maybe I'm wrong, a lieutenant governor though. Like some states have a lieutenant governor. Does that take the place of Executive Council? I mean, Massachusetts, for instance.
Sure. They
have a lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. Do they have a governor's council?
They have a governor's council that just deals with judicial appointments.
Okay.
So no one else has the configuration that New Hampshire has. We have a very strong Executive Council. We have power dispersed throughout state government so that the governor constitutionally doesn't have the same powers that she would have in other states. And it's a unique setup. I think it works well for us. I think it came out of a period in the 1700s where we didn't want to give too much authority to one individual. And having a system where there are checks and balances and having a board like the Executive Council that's scrutinizing how money is spent and who's getting hired for key positions, I think still makes sense today.
So what are some of the hot topics you think is going to take on this summer? Now, the governor's not running, but she's going for higher up, so you're going to have, so far we got, 6 or 8 candidates, with 4 on one side and 3 in the other,
Yeah.
or 5, I don't know, I can't remember.
And there could be more. I mean,
Yeah, because the
people will
volunteer
always file.
hasn't even opened up
Yeah,
yet.
and I think when it comes to the council, we really should be removed from the political process. We shouldn't be getting involved in partisan politics. And I think by and large, we've done that pretty well, at least in the 4 years that I've served on the council. There are issues that come up that are divisive, and there are times where I've been disappointed that a partisan majority has voted one way,
yes,
and I can cite a few of those examples. But generally speaking, we try to pull in the same direction. We try to have a cooperative relationship with the governor, and I would hope that would continue no matter who occupies the office of governor after this election. It's too important for the council to, kind of get sidetracked on these political issues. We should really be focusing on spending money wisely, on what we can do to tackle some of the long-term challenges the state faces. We've got an economy that is doing well. It's recovered all the jobs that we lost during the Great Recession, but there's so much more we need to do to make sure that people have the tools to get ahead. We need to make sure that we can retain young people here in our state, so they're not leaving. And if we retain them here, we also, I think, create a more positive business climate for the future of our state. We've also got this opioid crisis.
Yes.
And I know the legislature just recently has approved some funds and some legislation that I think is going to be critical in giving us the tools to fight that more effectively.
Sure.
But that's a long-term challenge our state faces because we can't succeed as a state if we have a culture of addiction that is rampant. And we're losing way too many people to overdose deaths. I see it in the city of Manchester in which I live. Law enforcement is doing a great job. They're taking a lot more of the drugs off the street. They're making a lot more arrests. But we can't simply arrest our way out of this problem. So we need collaboration at the federal, state, and local level. We need public and private partnerships. And most importantly, I think we need to build out a more robust system of treatment and recovery services around the state. That's one reason why I think New Hampshire is experiencing this problem more acutely than our neighbors or other states in the nation, because we don't have that system built out as well as some other states do. So that's going to continue to be the focus. I think we've got more tools in the basket right now to fight this, but it's going to take time. It's going to take awareness. It's going to take everyone working together. And so that's one of the reasons why I think the council and bipartisan relationships in state government more generally are so critical to our state going forward. We're a small state. We all know each other. And I think when we come together, we can address our problems in a way that you can't in Washington, or maybe you can't in some other big states. We've had some successes, some bipartisan successes the last couple of years. I think of transportation funding. I think of reauthorizing Medicaid expansion. We've had a couple budgets in a row where parties have gotten together at the end of the day and moved our state in the right direction. So I think that should be the template for how we operate in the future.
You say that, and I'm going to pick on one particular subject, and you
Sure.
know which one's going to be. But that the trains, passenger trains and things, they didn't put the $4 million back in, right?
That's one issue where I think the public is ahead of our elected leaders in Concord. You survey people, they overwhelmingly support multimodal transportation in our future, including passenger rail to Boston. We know that the Capital Corridor would create 5,600 permanent jobs, would see the development of millions of square feet of retail space, and really, I think, be a huge driver for the economy in central and southern New Hampshire. It would help create a stronger quality of life, and I think address one of the issues that I mentioned, how we retain our young people, how we attract businesses. Unfortunately, we haven't had the political will to get it done or to take it to the next stage. So we've studied it. We've seen the positive economic, circumstances that can arrive if we invest in it. But we just need the leadership to be able to come up with a New Hampshire solution that's going to pay for it in a fiscally responsible way. And I think we can do it in a way that leverages significant federal resources, minimizes the impact on the general fund. But I think when you weigh the economic impact of it, it's something that's too significant to leave on the shelf. So I would hope that after the next election, if we get a dozen or so more state reps and maybe a couple more state senators and another executive councilor who are in favor of this, It's an idea that I think we can move ahead. The time is right for it. And I think if we let this languish on the shelf, our economy is going to be missing out on something that could be a big driver.
Because what I don't understand, if this $4 million is federal funds, doesn't cost the state anything right now. What is the problem with it? I don't get it. I've had on some of the governor candidates, and again, you're right. It comes down to Republicans no, Democrats yes.
Well, and it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way.
Because, if you represent, the city of Nashua, and you happen to be a Republican, I think you should be voting in the best interest of the city of Nashua.
That's right.
And I think this is a concept with statewide benefits to, our business climate, to, the amount of tax money that's going to be coming into the state. So this is a win-win for the entire state of New Hampshire. So it really shouldn't be a political issue. But it's the same reason why 4 years ago we couldn't get the study done that was federally financed to look at what the economics would be about doing the Capital Corridor project. The Executive Council in 2012 voted that down. That was one of the reasons why I ran for this office in the first place, because I thought it was sensible to at least understand it and take the federal money that was there to study it. We ended up doing that, and that's why we have somewhat of an idea of what this could do for the state.
So we can't do nothing now until after the elections next year, right?
Well, we have the New Hampshire Rail Transit Authority board, which has been reconfigured. So there are folks that are going to be examining this and looking into this. Ultimately, the policy is going to be decided by the elected officials in Concord. And so we need some reinforcements. And I think if the will of the people is more accurately reflected in this election in terms of who's sent to the State House, I think this has a great chance of becoming reality.
I hope so. I mean, they're so afraid. I know it's the buses. The buses are so afraid that they're going to get taken off the highway. Same with the auto dealers.
Yeah.
They're not. It's just, I mean, they're not, they can all work together, but that's, oh no, can't do that.
That we've seen great success in the last decade with bus service.
Yeah.
Boston Express is doing quite well. And so we're not looking to crowd out other options. I think we're looking truly to have something that's intermodal. The buses do well at serving South Station. They also go to Logan Airport. The commuter rail would serve, cities along that line and wind up at North Station, which in some ways is a different market. Yeah. So this is about giving people options. Exactly. It's about creating an economic impact and making sure we have the best quality of life we can. We enjoy a lot of positive things in this state. We're rated very highly, but we do have some long-term challenges that we've got to solve, and I think this would be something that would allow us to attack those.
What's going to happen to the Rockingham track anyway? That sounds like that's going to be.
Well, it looks like it's being sold and redeveloped, and I mean, I think from the perspective of New Hampshire not pursuing expanded gambling, I think that's a missed opportunity for our state. We're going to see and continue to see a lot of dollars leave our state to go to Massachusetts and Connecticut and other places when we could be keeping those right here in New Hampshire without adversely impacting, the good quality of life we do have.
Yeah.
Certainly, problem gambling is an issue, but if we don't have a revenue stream from casino gambling, we can't really, address those issues in our state. So that's, again, something that I think people support, cuts across party lines, but we just haven't had the political will to get it done. And we'll see what happens in a future session.
As I said before, Chris, they keep saying about gambling, casino gambling is bad and it's addictive and all that stuff. But look what just happened recently with Powerball. $450 million jackpot. People were crowding everywhere to get tickets. Several months ago, they had the, $1.something billion jackpot. Look how people went for that. Then they got all these, as I said before, all these scratch tickets out there. From $1 to $5, $2, whatever, $3, $10, $20, $30 scratch tickets. They're buying them. So, I mean, how can you say we don't have gambling? Yeah. And bingo is the biggest one of all. But anyway, so with you, now your race, do you think you're going to have competition this year?
I always expect competition, and I would hope I have it because it certainly will make sure that there's a dialogue and that I'll be out there talking with people about why I think it's important to have balanced leadership on the executive council. This will be my third time running for executive council. And, it's a big district with 260,000 residents. So there are a lot of people to talk to, but I enjoy going out to the old home days, knocking on doors, having house parties in the 19 towns that I represent. So there's a lot of territory to cover, but I would expect a competitive campaign once again. And like my friend Ray Burton, who served for so long on the executive council, he always said, you got to run like you're 5 votes behind. And that's what I will certainly do in this election as well. We've seen a lot of surprises in New Hampshire, and I think that, people want to take a measure of you, want to hear what you've been doing and what you plan on doing. And I think it's my duty to get out there and do that.
How do you think the federal election is going to affect our election? Do you think people just go one way with the federals? I mean, if they're going to vote, they don't do straight ticket anymore, right? Is that gone out of the state?
There's no straight ticket voting in New Hampshire.
That's what I thought.
But there's still the tendency, I think, for people to, vote down a party column. Based on how they're feeling about a presidential race. And so, we've seen pretty wild swings in New Hampshire the last several years. We saw in 2010 where the Republicans pretty much won everything. And then in 2012, when Barack Obama was being reelected as president, Democrats won many offices here too. And so, that pendulum swing could continue depending on how people feel. But I think no matter what your party is, you've got to get out there and talk about what you've been doing and what your ideas are for the future. And so there are a lot of independent voters in New Hampshire. And there's a lot of ticket splitting that goes on. I know in my reelection in 2014, I'm a Democrat, but Republicans were winning at every level in the district that I represent. And so I think it speaks to the kind of campaign we ran and, the kind of independent message that we had about making state government work, about constituent service, the nuts and bolts of being an executive counselor. That's what I think is so valuable about the position. And I'd always attract a lot of Republican supporters, and I would hope to again in this campaign.
Well, of course, it's always nice to have a nice restaurant that you've got that serves good food down there and delicious ice cream and all that too. And
that's right.
You're on the news a lot with these big parties down there, and you've done. And I told you before, my hat's off to you for having that alternative prom night down there. Have you had that yet or no? That's coming up.
Yes, we've had that a couple years in a row now.
You haven't had it yet, though?
Yes, it's already happened. Yep.
How did it turn out?
Good. I think it got good reviews, and it's a real honor to be a part of a 99-year tradition of running a family business. My great grandfather started it in 1917. Next year we'll have our 100th birthday celebration, so I have to come up with something good.
I know.
Some special ice cream flavor or something. Maybe we'll go back to 1917 prices. What do you think about that?
So that would mean I go in there for a lobster pie at $1.25.
Oh, I think it would be like a quarter or 15 cents.
Oh, well.
We'll have to dig out that old menu.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That would be something to see. Hamburgers, 5 cents or 10 cents. Ice cream cone a dime or nickel.
Yeah. But, being in that type of business, I think really gives you a good sense of the types of issues that people are experiencing in their lives. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and they're never bashful about sharing their opinion, not just about their meal, but about what their view is on politics or issues that they see in their community. We have 250 employees.
Wow.
And so I hear everything about what goes on in the lives of my employees.
Oh,
and I feel like it really grounds me and gives me a good understanding in terms of what's happening out there and how government can work to address the needs of people. Government certainly doesn't have the answer to everything, and I appreciate that as a business owner. And sometimes we have frustrating dealings, with state government, with regulation. But at the end of the day, I think we can help be a force for good. And work together in a collaborative way to improve people's lives. And I think that's what the name of the game is.
It's interesting though when you do in your business, because you'll hear people talking in there and they know you. You're a people person, like I am. I love talking to people, and that's one thing that people look for in a politician. They want to feel like they're being heard. some people just blow them off or whatever, but if you give them that extra time, if you can, and not just say hello, goodbye, and all that, but if they, can we talk to you for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can take it short. I mean, that's what they want. They want to feel like they're being listened. You're listening to them.
Yeah.
You know?
And I find I do a lot of listening in the position.
I know you do.
And I think you have to,
You do.
because there are a lot of people you have to make sure you hear from, and you're elected not to represent your own party, but everyone in your district and everyone across the state. I had a woman call me recently, actually it was a few months ago now, and she said, you know, I'm a Republican. I'm not sure if you can help me, but I've got this issue. And I said, ma'am, of course I can help you. You know, I'm here for you and for anyone else who calls and, you know, might need some assistance. It's unfortunate. Some people might have that view about our political system. But, you know, as Ray Burton told me, you know, it's really about the service that you offer people. And for me, you know, it's an extension of the customer service we offer at the restaurant.
I've known Ray since 1966, and he was a real good guy, real good friend of mine, because he was in the Grange. He was high up in there at one time, and of course when I became the state president, we talked a lot, and we shared a lot. And so, you know, he's coming from Bath and everything else. I mean, he gave me some good ideas, and I know he was a big pusher for the youth in New Hampshire at one time, and he's definitely been missed a lot, because he was like the dean of that council, and people would listen. And that's the thing actually with you. I see you kind of following in his footsteps, because you do listen. You know?
And I think it's a deliberative position where you're better off if you hear competing points of view.
Yes.
You know, and I find that when we sit around the table, my colleagues might look at an issue differently than I do. They may use something from their own professional experience that helps shed some light on an item that we're considering. And so you do have to keep an open mind and do have to be willing to listen. I find that a lot of times, not that I'll change my vote necessarily, but I'll have a fuller picture of things, or someone's comment might spark a question, or a further examination of something. And so I think, you know, when we all kind of have that free exchange of ideas, results in better policies in the end. One of the important roles of the council is confirming judicial appointments. And so we have 4 right now that will be on our agenda at our next meeting. And I think the governor's done a pretty good job in identifying some folks that have the right temperament, the fairness and integrity to be members of the judiciary in our state. But it's an interesting contrast to what we see in Washington, especially with this recent round where the president has nominated a Supreme Court justice who can't get a hearing and can't even get a vote. And I think that's a shame. I mean, that's government not working. That's the political process controlling, you know, what the judiciary is going to look like. And so, you know, I appreciate that Republicans and Democrats like the type of independent judiciary we have in New Hampshire. Recent governors have set up a judicial selection commission that interviews candidates and really does a kind of a deep dive into these people's background and recommends qualified candidates to the governor. So by the time it gets to us, we've got some pretty, you know, compelling folks with sterling credentials that I think have been great nominees. And with these 4 anyway, I've talked with them all. We've had hearings, and they seem like they'd be good fits.
So do you get suggest now? You talk about judicial, but what about some of these other committees I've seen people getting nominated for? Did these go through you too?
Yes. So, you know, professional boards like the you know, Board of Cosmetology, those will come through us. You know, the Ethics Commission nominations come through us.
So when
the
there's
Ballot
a
Law
vacancy,
Commission. I mean, so there are, I think, something like 400 appointments that come through governor and council.
So how do you get nominated for one of those?
The governor has the power to nominate, and the council confirms. And so, you know, the governor's office has an appointments director that helps kind of manage that process. But they're always looking for names of people that are qualified and have good, would be a good match for a certain board. And so I'm always trying to recommend people and have had some success at finding people in my district that are a good fit for certain boards and commissions. I give them the name, they do their vetting, and if the governor likes the person, she'll bring the name forward.
All the years I've been, I've never heard of anybody being nominated, for Concord for anything. I'm sure there have been.
Oh, sure.
But we never hear anything in the paper. We don't see anything. There's nothing ever posted, or anybody says, "Hey, would you like to serve on something?" I never hear about that stuff.
And there are different, I think, ways people might get recommended for different boards. Sometimes, the board will make a recommendation to the governor. Sometimes it's a department, like if there's a position within the Department of Safety, sometimes they'll do their own search and recommend something to the governor. And sometimes the governor's office is just sort of out there on their own, beating the bushes to fill positions. So, I think it's one of those things where we're always better off if we have a big pool. That's why I try to give them names. And if you ever have any recommendations, let me know. We'll take a look.
I'd like to know how many different boards you have to see just what people could go for.
Yeah, you can find it online at the Secretary of State's office. The Red Book is online, and so that'll list each board and commission with each appointment, the term of that appointment, and who's occupying it. Some are done based on party registration so that there's a balance. There are different statutes about these different boards and commissions and sort of who can serve and what the makeup looks like. So I'm always having to refer to that because some terms are 2 years, some terms are 5 years, and everything in between. And so it's sometimes difficult to keep track of everything. But we've seen some, pretty significant appointments the last few years. The most important one is probably the Commissioner of Health and Human Services.
Oh, I'm sure.
Nick Toompas left after many years of distinguished service. Nick is someone that people trusted, and I think he, had the best interests of the people of New Hampshire at heart. Did a wonderful job, and that's a complex job. You have a lot of big programs, Medicaid. You think of any social service program that's under their purview. And the governor recently nominated Jeff Myers, who was in the department, had done some pretty complicated work on some Medicaid waivers and some other weighty issues. He's proven himself, and he's already off and running. He's offered to go on a tour around my district with me, visiting places like, YDC, the Webster House, and we hope to get to a recovery center in Manchester too, just so he's sort of in touch with what's going on in the communities. I think that's really important.
Good. Well, we're coming to a close for Around Town, and it's been a pleasure having you on board again. And when it gets near election time, we'll see how it lines up. If you've got some competition, we'd love to get you back on again for the elections, and we'll push there or whatever. But anybody who's watching can get a hold of you by either calling you at the back room, or do you have a number you want them to call you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, my State House email is cpappas@nh.gov. My cell phone number is on the website too, 867-8438. Always happy to talk to anyone who's out there. But I'll be out working hard the next 6 months.
I will
never be here before we know it.
I still can't get over the day I called you, and you were over in Israel. I could not believe that. Here I pick a dial his cell phone, and I thought he was down in Manchester, right? He's over in Israel. I said, "You're where?" I'm over in it. Oh, boy.
Well, it was a 603 number, and so I figured it was important, and I didn't want to miss out on something.
I know, but I didn't think my cell phone I didn't know it would reach over there. So, but anyway,
it's a long cable.
We wish you well, Chris, and thanks again for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for my director there, Ian Markson. He's working on getting his other camera fixed, but he's already got it going, and we'll see you soon on Around Town. I'm your host, Dick Patten.